guys, welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Becca and today I'm going to be setting myself 30 books to read before I'm 30. So this video very nearly prompted an existential crisis. If you saw my unboxing and my vlog and everything for last week, you will know that it was my birthday. I just turned 28 and there are 2 years until I hit 30. So I thought, as somebody who is scared of aging, why not make it worse by making a whole video about turning 30? So I have selected 30 books. Today when I do videos like this, sometimes I'll put like the first book in a series as a stand-in for the whole series. This isn't what this is going to be. I've included every single book in a series towards the 30 because I don't know, there's something about it being my 30 before 30 that makes me feel like if I don't do it or at least read most of these, then I've failed on more of just a simple stupid challenge that I set myself that it's okay to fail kind of level. So I've made this easier for myself in some ways. I've also made it harder for myself in some ways, because something that I realized when I was making this video as well is that this is more than one book per month. If I want to achieve this, I have to read more than one book per month to be able to complete this goal. So this is going to be a very personalized list of 30 books to read before 30. It is not going to be like one of those 100 books to read before you die kind of videos. To be fair though, I did scroll through a few of those when I was making my list for this video, and I did add a couple of books, but then I like started to choke on the elitism in those lists and I quickly vacated the premises. So we have some like big staples of genres in this list. We have a couple of classics, just a couple, you know, because you know I don't read those very much. We have some things that like when I was looking at my shelves, I felt like I definitely should have read them by now. One series in particular I feel like I should have read when I was much younger but didn't at the time. And we also have just like some personal fun things that I actually kind of want to read before I'm 30. So we're gonna get cracking with this list. I guess we're gonna start with the staples of the genre, should we go for. So the first one is one of the easiest ones on the list, and I would like to read the entire Death Note series by Tsugumi Ohba. I've been dipping my toes into manga over the last couple of years, I want to say, and I have read some of the more popular manga, but I feel like one of the most popular manga out there is Death Note. I'm going off the black editions of this as well, so Death Note is going to take up 6 spots in this 30 list. And this is about a student who picks up this book called Death Note that has been dropped by a god of death, and any human whose name is written in that book will die. Now I have seen about half of one of the adaptations for this, but I was watching it at like 2 AM and I fell asleep, but I really enjoyed that, which is what piqued my interest in this. There are quite a few like big popular manga series out there that I probably will never read, like Full Metal Alchemist. I don't think I'm too interested in that one, but Death Note is one that has definitely captured my attention. I've heard excellent things, so I feel like if I was going to add like a little bit of an easier one, like a manga or a comic on this, and then Death Note should definitely be the one. Another one that I would consider a staple of the genre is the 5th season or the Broken Earth trilogy by N.K. Jemisin. So this is taking up 3 spots on the list. This one is an adult fantasy that I've heard great things about. I think that the perspectives in here are a little bit confusing until you get into it, but by the time you get to the end you realize that it's genius. I believe as well that this series is the only series ever where every single book has won the Hugo Award for the year that it's published, which is definitely a great accomplishment. And this series I actually do not know that much about, but I believe that it takes place in a world where we've had these seasons, and the season, like each season is something really bad, but there is also a group of people, I'm not sure if they're all women, who have the ability to like cause earthquakes. That's all I know you will find with a lot of the books on here. I bought them mainly based on their reputation and things that I've heard about them, and I don't know a great deal about them because of that, just the bare basics. Segueing us into classics, I guess, we have one that is both a staple of the fantasy genre and a classic, and this is the one that I was most hesitant to put on this list because I'm not sure how much I'm gonna like this, because I know that this author is very fond of exposition. But we have The Lord of the Rings by J.R.R. Tolkien. Now before you come at me, I know know that these were intended to be published as one full book, and they have since been split into 3 installments. I am including these as 3 books, not as one, because as I said, I do have to actually be able to accomplish these TBR while it is also challenging. So the reason that this is challenging is just because it's classic fantasy, and I'm not sure that J.R.R. Tolkien's writing style is going to be for me, but I can't have entered 30 as a fantasy booktuber without having read The Lord of the Rings. So I haven't even seen the movies. I've seen the first movie for The Lord of the Rings, so I don't even have a very detailed understanding of the plot of this, but I believe that there's this big evil guy called Sauron who wants to control all of the rings of power so that he can control Middle Earth, but he doesn't have the one ring, which has fallen into the hands of a hobbit called Bilbo. I have seen the first movie not even too long ago, but I know that it is essentially like an epic journey, an epic quest kind of story. For the classics, I ain't a classic reader, and I have noticed with the classics that I've read and enjoyed, I only really like gothic fiction. But one that I've told that I will enjoy is Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. I don't know a great deal about this one, again, and because it's a classic, they don't even really give you a synopsis on this, but I have heard that it is quite romance focused. I believe that we have a strong heroine in here who does not want to fit into what society wants her to be, and she wants to find love on her own terms, and then there's like a very angsty dramatic romance, I believe. While this is a different Bronte, one of my favorite classics as well is Wuthering Heights. My favorite classics are Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier and Wuthering Heights, so I think that there is a good chance that I will enjoy this one. And then the other classic I want to put on this list is one that I never actually intended to read, but I feel like I have to, you know, because I feel like it is the classic, and that is Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. I've never read a Jane Austen book. I never explicitly intended to, but I feel like I can't go throughout my life without reading a Jane Austen book, and Pride and Prejudice is like the Jane Austen book. I don't think, unless they've been on TV in the background, I don't think I've even seen an adaptation of this, but I know that we have, is it Elizabeth Bennet? Lizzie Bennet and Mr. Darcy, and he's like dark and brooding, and it's a romance between them. Everyone loves Pride and Prejudice. I've heard the adaptations are really good. I haven't seen any of them, so maybe I'll stick that as something to do on this list as well. But yeah, I'm gonna read Pride and Prejudice. Now, the series that I feel like I've missed out on reading when it was at its prime is the Old Kingdom series by Garth Nix. So I do know that this is currently 6 books, but I'm only aiming to read the first 3. I believe that these 3 came out in pretty quick succession in the early 2000s, and then there's been 3 more books published since around 2014ish, and one of them's coming out in 2021. But I'm just aiming for the first 3 here, but if I enjoy them, there's a good chance that I'll carry on as well. I've heard excellent things about this. It's one that I've seen many times throughout my life, and I didn't know what it was about, and I didn't really think it was for me, and it's only recently when I've acquired these books I've actually read the synopsis and realized that I would actually really like this. One of the reasons is my entire life I've thought that Sabriel was a male protagonist, so as a like young to middle like teenager 10-15 years ago, that was not something I was interested in. I wasn't really interested in reading from the eyes of a male protagonist. However, I have since discovered that Sabriel is a female protagonist, so I definitely think it's something I should have read at the time. But I believe we are following a young girl who is in a boarding school, and she's never really had to encounter the strange magics of the Old Kingdom. Her father is a mage, and one day he goes missing, and this causes Sabriel to leave her like safe haven of this boarding school to go out and find him. I'm also pretty sure that this series does not consistently follow the same main character. We have different protagonists throughout, but it is one that I am very intrigued to read, and one that I think I'm really going to enjoy. Next up, we have a bunch of standalones, and I will say that I did pull some of these from those lists of like 100 books to read before you die. These are all well regarded, I want to say, but I wouldn't consider any of them classics unless they are now modern classics. So the first one is the only one that I don't own, and that one is A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara. Have I heard good things about this? Apparently it is the one book that makes everybody cry. Last year or the year before, there was like this trend on BookTube where people were reading it to see if it would make them cry. Literally know nothing about the plot, and I actually don't really want to know anything about it because I feel like that will diminish the power of it to emotionally impact me, because I'll kind of start guessing about what it is that makes this book book so sad. All I know about it is that it's queer. I've heard it's like just real sad from cover to cover, and it also has a lot of trigger warnings. That is all I know. Please don't spoil me for it at all. Like, I don't want to know anything about it. It's one that I wasn't sure if I was ever going to read because I feel like I'll be outing myself for being pretty heartless if I don't cry. Yeah, I might as well read that before I'm 30, so it's going on the list. We also have 1Q84 by Haruki Murakami. I have read a Murakami book before that I really enjoyed, which was the Wind Up Bird Chronicle, but this is on here for multiple reasons. The first is that I just generally want to read more Murakami. The second reason is that this is the first Murakami book that I ever encountered. I saw it in a charity shop. The synopsis looked really intriguing and I considered it, but I wasn't sure. There was something just about the look of it that made it feel really intimidating to me. It was about 10 years ago, I want to say, that I saw it, and then it was just on my mind ever since. So when I read the Wind Up Bird Chronicle and really enjoyed it, I knew that I had to have this one. Yet I still have not read it. Murakami books are very hard to explain, and I found that the synopsis is very like surface level in comparison to what actually happens in his books. He writes a lot of surrealism, so it's like a very confused mix of fantastical and reality. But this one, it takes place in the year 1Q84 in a world that is the real world, but it's not the real world, if that makes sense. There are two moons in the sky, and we are following two main characters whose fates are intertwined. That is all I know. Heard excellent things. This has been on my mind for about 10 years, and I will say as well that both of the installments of this, so this is book 1 and 2, but I'm only going to count it as one book, but I'm going to include book 3 as a second book, so this will count for 2 books in this video, even though it's like technically 3 but published as 2. It's real confusing. I don't know why they just didn't publish it all as a bind up or publish them separately. We then have Cloud Atlas by David Mitchell. This is a book that I have owned for a very long time. I first got it because I was really into collecting books that have been adapted into movies. Haven't seen the movie for this, so I don't really know too much about it. It was shortlisted for the Man Booker Award as well, so it is pretty high regarded. And I have since cleared out a lot of the books that I bought simply because they were adapted into movies, but this one, I believe, again, is surrealism. So it has a little bit of a fantastical element, which means that there's a chance that I could like it. Surrealism is very hit or miss with me. I either love it or I hate it, so we'll see how we go. But this one, I believe, is about 6 characters with interlocking lives, and it spans time. I think it's like a Russian doll reality kind of situation, but it spans from the 19th century all the way to a post-apocalyptic future, and I can't tell you any more than that. This is a real big TBR, and I am sorry about that. We then have Battle Royale by Kushan Takami. I adore the movie for Battle Royale, and I have heard that the movie does do a very good job of displaying this story on the big screen, but this is like the Hunger Games before the Hunger Games existed. It is translated from Japanese, and it follows a group of students who are sent to this island where they have to fight to the death, and the one who remains is the victor. So plot of the Hunger Games. Apparently Suzanne Collins did not know that this book existed before the Hunger Games, but I love the movie for this. It's like an adult version of the Hunger Games as well, so it is a lot more brutal, at least in movie form, but I am also expecting a similar vibe from the book. It's pretty well known. It's a well-known book, which is why it's on this list, but it's also one that I've wanted to read for quite some time. The reason I didn't read it after enjoying the movie is because I'd never read anything translated, and I thought that that would be very intimidating to me, but I do read a decent amount of translated stuff now, and that's not something that bothers me. So I think for a few years now I've been at a time in my life where I could easily read Battle Royale, and I just haven't because the size intimidates me now. So at this point we are at 22 books. We have 8 books left to add to my 30 before 30, and this is where I've made it a little bit easier for myself. It is still like a bit much. It's also nothing to do with like books that you should read before you're 30, nothing to do with staples of the genre. These are just books that I really want to read, and it would be fun if I did it before 30. Now there is also the possibility that this video is going to run over 30 because the last 8 books on this TBR are all of the Colleen Hoover books that I have not yet read. So you guys know I do read quite a bit of Colleen Hoover. I love that her books are angsty, dramatic, ridiculous plot twists. Most of them are slightly problematic, but it just adds to the really unrealistic drama for me, and the romances are compelling. So I normally read Colleen Hoover when I'm trying to get out of a reading slump because I just eat her books up. So I thought it would be fun if I tried to read the rest of her backlist that I have not yet managed to get to. But this also comes with the caveat that by the time I'm 30, I want to have read everything she's published up to date. So we have the 8 books that she's currently published that I haven't read, plus anything she publishes from this moment onwards, which takes this video over 30 because I anticipate her releasing at least 2, probably up to 4 books before I turn 30. So starting off with the 2 Colleen Hoover books I haven't read that I currently own, we have Regretting You. This one follows a mother and her daughter. The daughter's father, so the mother's husband, has died, and they are struggling to kind of maintain their relationship without the main man in both of their lives there to act as a buffer between them. We also have Layla. This one is about a man whose wife is in an accident, and when she has physically recovered, she still hasn't like mentally and emotionally recovered. So he takes her to the place where they fell in love to try and bring her back to herself, but very weird things start happening. Then digging into the backlist, I'm going to give you very brief synopses on these ones. We have Never Never, which Colleen Hoover co-wrote with Taryn Fisher. I do actually believe that this is a series, but I just have it all in as one book. And this follows a young boy and girl, I'm not sure how old they are, but they've been friends forever. They've been in a relationship for a while, but they've woke up one day and all of the memories that they had with each other have disappeared and they no longer know each other. We then have Too Late. I believe that this is one of her darker ones. It has a warning on Goodreads that is only for mature audiences over the age of 18 and contains some pretty dark themes, but this is about a young woman who finds herself in a relationship with a dangerous and morally corrupt man, and it seems like it's going to be told from both of their perspectives. We then have Hopeless, which is one of her series and also one of her earliest books. This has 2 books and a novella. I'm including each book as a number on this list, but not the novella, which I will probably read as well. And this one is a young adult romance about a girl who's growing closer to this boy, probably a romance, and she discovers that he's holding secrets from her, which honestly pretty standard. One of her most recent books is All Your Perfects. This one follows a couple who are in an established marriage. They've been married for a while and the marriage starts to have problems. I'm going to assume that this one is about them repairing their marriage and finding their way back to each other. And the last one that I haven't read is Heartbones, and I believe that this is about a young woman who is about to go to college. However, there is a death. I'm going to assume it's like a death in her family, and she's forced to go and spend the summer with her father that she doesn't know, and there she meets somebody who is from a life of wealth and privilege while she's from more of her like neglectful poverty background, and I'm gonna assume it's a romance between those two. So there you have it. Those are my 30 books that I would like to read before I'm 30 years old. Cue the existential crisis after I've wrapped up this video. Please comment down below what you think about my choices for this 30 list. Let me know if you think I'm gonna do it, because it could go 2 ways. I could like be really driven and do this within the next few months, or I could just forget about it and fail completely. Realistically, this shouldn't be too much of a challenge. I have put a few easier books on here. I've done the thing where like I've included series as like the individual books as opposed to just bulking them into one slot on this list to help me out a little bit. But some of these books are very intimidating to me. I should be able to do it because between now and turning 30, I'm probably going to read 200 books, and this is only like 15 a year, but it's still more than 1 a month, and we all know how crazy my monthly TBRs get. So we'll see how we go, but please don't forget to like this video if you liked it and subscribe if you wanna. If you head into my description box, you will find a link to my Goodreads, Instagram, and Twitter if you'd like to follow me on any of those, as well as a link to my Bookish candle website, the Instagram for that, and a 10% off discount code. But that's it from me today, guys. Bye!
Oh, you bite your friend like chocolate. You say you will go where nobody knows, with guns hidden under our petticoats. We're never gonna quit it, no, we're never gonna quit it, no.